Hey yo, how's it going guys? SixftHax here, bringing y'all today my Week 3 Draft Premier League match against AceOfGames. My homies are facing Start Draft Now, which are coached by my two very good buddies and fellow front office homies, Omega Jolteon and Shuckle King 87. So if you guys do enjoy this, hit that thumbs up button down below. There is an awesome backstory to this that I'm gonna go over right now, but there's a timestamp that'll get you guys straight to the battle, and I'll probably kind of mention it there too. The only thing you're gonna miss really is me talking about the team, but yeah, I'm gonna do that. So yeah, you can go to the battle if you don't want to hear me talk about the team. So the backstory behind this game is that it is currently Week 3. My team is 1-1, and the opposing team is 2-0. So everybody else has played besides me and my opponent here, AceOfGames, and it is currently 3 wins to 3 wins. So it's best 4 out of 7. So a team needs to win 4 games out of the potential 7 that they play, which means all the pressure is not only on me to win for my team, but it is also on my opponent's team here, Mr. AceOfGames, who has been doing very well in his first 2 weeks. He is also 2-0, as where we are 1-1, because I played my Week 2 match as the final match as well, but at that point we had already lost, so that game didn't matter, which is the complete opposite of this game, because this is literally a win or lose. Like, if we win this, we head into Week 4 2-1, which is great. If we lose, we head into Week 4 1-2, and that's not very good. So yeah, hopefully we can pull out a victory here. I did kind of feel a little bit pressured for this game, so we did it like a day or two after the deadline because of time constraint. Me just wanted to make sure the team was going to be perfectly fine for the matchup here. So looking at the quick team preview, it is only 8 mon, so it's going to be very easy. So first off, I do not expect my opponent at all to want to bring Bouffalant. It's a Bouffalant. Why would you bring a Bouffalant when I have Mega Medicham? I really don't expect Bouffalant whatsoever. But his other 6 mons, I do fully 7 mons, sorry, I do fully expect. I feel like between Togekiss, Latios, and Bisharp, only 2 of those 3 is guaranteed to come, just because Roserade has an amazing matchup in this game, whether it be offensive or defensive. With T-Spikes, it is a giant issue, because in 6th gen, Tornadus does not learn Defog, which means I don't have a grounded poison and I have no hazard removal, so I need to be very careful around that Roserade, which means something like Vincune along with T-Spikes could be an absolute nightmare to deal with, so I need to be very careful along with the Suicune as well. Plus those 2 mons together basically make Politoed and Kingdra pretty much useless to me in this game, so I can't bring the Rain Core, unfortunately. Actually, yeah, this is not the original team I used in Week 1. This is a team that Jolt made because we needed to have one last ORAS team, and he kind of made this little pseudo Rain team, and I was like, yeah, I want to use it, plus we had to use it, so yeah. Left my draft and used this one for this week here. And then Mega Manectric pretty much dicks me if I don't have Crocodile, so I fully expect that to come. And then Landorus in general just has a really good matchup, because whether it be Scarf or Double Dance, it is a threat nonetheless. Togekiss could also be Scarfed. I definitely expect one of his mons to be Scarf, most likely Landorus or Togekiss, because something like Scarf Latios and Scarf Roserade just does not have that good of a matchup. Like, Life Orb Roserade is amazing in this game, and that's what I'm really scared of. So yeah, Latios could be Reflect type potentially, that's what we were scared of, and then Bisharp is probably just going to be Swords Dance, and then Bouffalant is an Unmon. So as you can see from my first team member here, we have Scarf Gardevoir, because if I'm able to get rid of my opponent's Roserade, then I literally just click Moonblast for free. And if he has Scarf Togekiss or Scarf Landorus, they could outspeed me, but besides those 2, I just come in, I click Moonblast once Roserade is gone or severely weakened, and I claim my kill. Trick is only really there if Reflect type Latios or Calm Mind Suicune get out of hand, so that's really it. And then we have Healing Wish in case I need to revive something else on my team. Next off, we have Mega Medicham here, not necessarily running the hardest hitting moves, mainly because I figured that Drain Punch would be ultimately the best option to go with as my fighting stab move, because it allows me to gain some type of recovery if it really comes down to it. And if he does have hazards like T-Spikes, Spikes, and Rocks, I want to have some type of recovery, and I didn't want to go with Recover because I figured Drain Punch would still have some very good merits. And then Ice Punch basically hits everything else that Drain Punch doesn't hit if they resist Drain Punch, which is really good because that allows us to run a double priority with Fake Out and Bullet Punch, which double priority is amazing in this game because so much of his team could potentially be faster than us. The fact that we have Fake Out and Bullet Punch, everything's taking at least like 40% minimum if they're very offensive from Fake Out plus Bullet Punch. So if we can weaken things accordingly, late game Medicham can actually just end up sweeping by itself, which is really good. Next off, we have a very bulky, Spadef, speedy Crocodile here. I was originally going to run a lot less speed, but I did not want to risk him having a what's it called, a very speedy offensive rosary, because if you did have that, then this is one less mon that would be able to deal with it, as where if I run all this speed, I can still deal with that accordingly. And you're not reading it wrong, I do have Moxie as opposed to Intimidate, because I don't necessarily have the best knockoff switching. So if Bisharp ever does Swords Dance, I don't want to give him a free +1 because of the Intimidate, because it'll put him at -1, but then Defiant gives him +2, so he'll be at +1, so he could be at +3 if he has a Swords Dance. So I want to avoid that scenario entirely. Plus, outside of Landers, I don't really need Intimidate in general, because again, I do not expect Buffalant at all to come to this game because of our immense bulk here with the Assault Vest. There's no way that a modest Mega Manetric should ever 2-hit KO us with HP Ice or Signal Beam, which is great. And then we can also tank Surfs from the Latios and maybe play Mind Games with Pursuit or Knockoff. So we have Stone Edge to be able to hit Togekiss Knockoff, just because Knockoff is really good in general in this match. Earthquake for Stab, and then Superpower was really only there for the Bisharp, or if Latios does turn out to be Reflect type and it tries to turn into my Crocodile or Ferrothorn, then we're able to bop it with the Superpower at least for some solid damage. Next off, we have very offensive, well, offensive I guess, like tankish Ferrothorn here. This EV spread is actually not correct. What I should have done was made this sassy and then put my Spadef at 304, and that would have given me 3 more points in my physical attack, but ultimately it doesn't really matter in the long run of the battle. Plus, Jolt overlooked this team and he said it was all good, so I also blame him for that. But yeah, Ferrothorn is here, obviously because my opponent has a Suicune. Unfortunately, if I get burned, then I still don't break a max defense, max HP Suicune substitute, which is actually a little bit bad, which is why I have Surf there with, not Surf, sorry, Curse there, which could help us to kind of mitigate the burn a little bit, so I can at least somehow try to end the match or end against Suicune without it being behind a substitute if it really comes down to it. And then we have Rocks on this because we do have Assault Vest. Crocodile, I would have liked to maybe have Spikes over Curse, but Suicune was just way too big of a threat, and I figured Curse is like the best way I can potentially try and mitigate the burn if he does get it on me. And then Akaberry is just in case we need to try and take a hit from the Roserade and then hopefully knock it out with the Gyro Ball. If he's purely offensive, then I think Gyro Ball is straight Oko. If he's like specially defensive, I think I still do like 90%, and then if he's mixed defensive with a lot of Fizdef EVs, it still does a good like 60-70ish%, which is very solid in my opinion. Next off, we have Lumberry sub Calm Mind Raikou. Look at this set and look at my opponent's team. This set literally can win by itself if I'm able to set up on the Suicune, which I figured I should have a good chance to set up on Suicune. As long as it doesn't Calm Mind before me, it should never be able to break my substitute, in which case I can sub on it, start going for Calm Minds, and force him to bring in something, and then potentially pick up a KO or two, which is going to be very beneficial to me. Lumberry is really only there for the Toxic Spikes, otherwise I would have had maybe something like Leftovers. But I figured Lumberry was going to be really good just in case. If he didn't for some reason have T-Spikes and he just went with Sleep Powder and Roserade, we can also kind of pivot this into Roserade if it really comes down to it. But Lumberry's legitimately only there for the T-Spike, so we can try to bring in Raikou once. And that's all I really need to do. I just need to bring in Raikou at the perfect time, substitute on the Suicune potentially, or just a forced switch out, and then start Calm Minding, and I should nab KO or 2, even 3, depending on how my opponent plays around the Raikou set here. So yeah, next off we have a Safety Goggles Tornadus. Again, unfortunately in 6th gen, Tornadus does not get access to defog, which is rather unfortunate, but with the Safety Goggles we can kind of play around Sleep Powder Roserade, which is also something that could be very scary in this matchup if he were to bring it along with the T-Spikes. So with Taunt, we are able to stop any type of setup that he may potentially bring. U-Turn obviously gains his momentum, Hurricane for Stab, and then Superpower is really only there for Bisharp, and again, kind of like the same reasoning it's on Crocodile. In case the Latios turns into maybe like Ferrothorn or Crocodile, we have a way of hitting it for super effective damage that should still be doing a decent bit. So yeah guys, that is our squad here. Let's go ahead and jump into the battle. Okay, so I think I talked about the team and the team builder a little bit longer than I had wanted to, so apologize about that for those of you who watched that and are here now, but I'm sure y'all kind of just skip straight to this once the time stamp went up. So quick little backstory before the actual match starts here. This is game number 7 of the 3rd week of the Draft Premier League. You need to win 4 games out of your 7 in order to advance to, well, not advance, but in order to win the week, sorry. So at this point, all the pressure is on me and my opponent here, Mr. AceOfGames. whoever wins this battle wins the week for their team. So hopefully it'll be us, and hopefully we can go into week number 4 2-1 and hand Start Draft Now, which is AceOfGames team, their first loss. So if you guys do enjoy this, hit that thumbs up button down below. Let me know what you guys have been thinking about the Draft Premier League. Do you think this is kind of cool? I think it's a really good idea. Like, obviously it's not as competitive or as well known as Smolgan Premier League, but I still think it's nice that some people wanted to try and do a big league tournament thing like Smolgan does for SPL, but for draft league stuff. So yeah, let me know if you guys have been liking the idea of this so far. So this is going to be in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, because I've been mainly just wanted to play 6th gen for this, because I'm going to be uploading a bunch of 7th gen draft leagues anyways. So looking at the team preview, I was very happy to not see the Togekiss. I figured Togekiss, Latios, or Bisharp, 2 of those 3 would come, but not all 3, because his other 4 Mons just had really good matchups in general. And the thing about 6th gen is that Megas don't gain their speed instantly, which is why I actually wanted to go ahead and lead off with my Mega Medicham, because that way I could go for the Fake Out and not only Insta Mega and gain my base 100 speed, but I could also go ahead and gain some information on whatever he decided to lead with. So Toxic Spikes, obviously very, very scary. Bisharp, I have no good switch-ins to knock off. I need to find out what set this Landorus is running, and I want to hopefully not get bodied by T-Spikes plus Vinkun, or just super fat Suicune in general. And then I have no idea what Latias set my opponent could be running. If it's the wrong set, it could actually destroy us, so I need to be very careful on how I play around his Latias. So let's go ahead and get this started. So as I said, I'm going to be leading off with my Mega Medicham here, as he decides to lead off with the Landers. Turn 1, I do get a little bit lucky, and I crit him. Now, he does end up paying me back for this crit later in the battle, and this crit might have actually mattered a little bit near the end game, but I'll talk about it when we get there. As it U-turns into the Bisharp, now Landorus is at 52%, which is amazing, because I didn't think I would have it this low, only 3 turns into the battle. But the issue is that Bisharp can come in here. Now, as you saw, I switched out my Ferrothorn into my Crocodile. Now, this is not Intimidate Crocodile, which is really good. And I figured that if I wanted something to lose their item, losing my Assault Vest wouldn't be nearly as bad as losing one of the other items on my Mons here. So I figured that if he did knock off, Crocodile is my best switch in, and then from there I can force him out and go for a knockoff of my own. But it turns out that he's actually going to go for Swords Dance. Now, there's a couple things that could happen this turn. The worst case scenario is obviously that he's Focus Sash or Chopple Berry. Either one, he lives a hit and then utterly destroys me with an Iron Head, most likely. But because there is no chance of him knowing that I have the superpower, he could also be a different item like Life Orb maybe, or Black Glasses, or something along those lines. Plus, realistically, I didn't feel like me going for superpower necessarily lost me anything. If anything, I still gained something out of just going for a superpower this turn, because I get off damage on whatever comes in, and I also gain information on anything else that is not the Landorus that is coming in. So I'm going to decide just to go straight for the superpower. If he's Focus Sashed or he's Chopple Berry, then so be it. But I figured in the long run, superpower is by far my best play, because there wasn't much merit to me actually running superpower on Crocodile, and it actually turned out that his Bisharp was Shucka Berry. So if I did go for the Earthquake here, that would have been really bad for me, as I'm able to get rid of the Bisharp very early on turn 1 here. He decides to bring in the Landorus. The way he brought it in told me he most likely is going to be Scarf, plus the fact that he showed U-turn earlier in the game means that this is not a setup Landorus, so it makes a lot of sense for him to be Scarf Landorus, because he definitely needed a Scarfer regardless in this game, mainly for my Raikou, Tornadus, and my Mega Medicham, all of which obviously came to this game. And because he didn't have Togekiss, then that meant obviously that wasn't going to be Scarfed. Latios being Scarfed and Roserade being Scarfed are just really bad sets in my opinion if he were to bring them Scarfed. So it makes a lot of sense for his Landorus to be Scarfed. So that's how I'm going to try and play around this Landorus in this battle. As I make a hard switch into my Tornadus, I figured he wouldn't go straight for the Stone Edge, and he might have wanted to try and pull a double switch, expecting me to bring in my Ferrothorn and him not wanting to take any more Iron Barb damage. So I felt very comfortable in just bringing in my Tornadus here, as he actually decides to go ahead and get up his Stealth Rocks. Now, Choice Scarf Rocks Mons aren't that odd. I've run them before and I've seen them ran before, and this is an example of where it's actually really good because he knows Landers forces me to switch out, so even if he is scarfed, he does get the chance to get up rocks. But now this gives me the opportunity to easily just go for the U-turn to try and gain some type of momentum. As in comes the Suicune, I can bring in my Ferrothorn, and now this is my best chance to go ahead and get up my own entry hazards, which are going to be Stealth Rocks, as he brings in the Roserade. Now, even if this Roserade is Life Orb, HP Fire, because of my Aqua Berry, I guarantee live one hit. And because this Roserade is the only thing standing in the way of my Scarf Gardevoir just spamming Moonblast for free, I am going to gladly stay in here, eat the Hidden Power Fire, and in return knock him out with the Gyro Ball, because if he is offensive after Life Orb, Gyro Ball guarantee finishes him off. But he actually takes a chance to go ahead and get up T-Spikes, and then it turns out that he is a very physically defensive Roserade. But this still did 64%, so if I really wanted to, I can definitely stay in here and still take the Hidden Power Fire and go ahead and knock out the Roserade. The only issue with that, though, is that this Suicune is still very healthy. I don't really have much to deal with it if it gets behind a substitute, so I still need to save my Ferrothorn, unfortunately. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch into my Tornadus Therian, expecting him to go for the Hidden Power Fire. As he does do so, this is going to allow me to once again just go for the U-turn, because even though I did get off a huge hit on this Roserade, whether it's defensive or offensive, Roserade in general just had such a good matchup against my team, and I'm very positive that he's not going to want and just sack it here to my Tornadus, so I can try to keep momentum in my favor by going for the U-turn. As he brings in the Manectric here, he actually ends up paying me back for that turn 1 crit as he gets the static on me. And this is really bad because this static literally just makes my Tornadus absolutely useless and death fodder. I was speedy, I had taunt, I could stop Latios or Suicune from potentially setting up, I could outspeed and Hurricane Roserade. But now, with me being paralyzed, there's a 25% chance I'll get fully paralyzed, and I don't outspeed anything else on his team. So that does kind of suck, but I guess this does allow me to bring in my Krookodile and just safely go for the knockoff, as he just so quickly brought in Suicune, and this is amazing. Oh my lord, getting rid of Suicune's leftovers is absolutely huge, because now even if he is Protect, it does not matter. This thing will no longer be gaining passive recovery, and that in itself is absolutely huge for me in this game, as I'm gonna go ahead and make the very obvious switch into my Ferrothorn. Realistically, again, this was very obvious, but I lost nothing in doing so. Even if you brought in Manectric, I can just go ahead and sack off my Tornadus, bring back in my Krookodile and just click knockoff again. Or if I check the calcs and Roserade was in range of being 2-hit KO'd by 2 Moonblast, I could have just brought in my Gardevoir, outspent Mega Manectric, and then got a kill. So yeah, I figured that even though the switch here into Ferrothorn was very blatant, I still really did not mind if he doubled. So he's gonna go ahead and go for the fire, like Hidden Power Fire, sorry, and I'm gonna be able to knock him out with the Gyro Ball. Now, I know I mentioned earlier that I needed my Ferrothorn to deal with the Suicune, but because it's at 63%, 51% after rocks, and he no longer has leftovers, this thing is actually no longer as big of a problem as it originally was, just because of the damage and him no longer having leftovers. So I can afford to play a little bit more aggressively with my Ferrothorn as I get rid of the Roserade. This has now opened the doors for my Scarf Gardevoir to come in, click Moonblast, and get a KO. So I'm going to sack off Ferrothorn, bring in my Gardevoir. Look at his team. What am I killing? This is my favorite game. Pick a sack, any sack, it doesn't matter. My Gardevoir is going to claim one right now. As he brings in the Suicune, this is the only thing that he has that can live 2 hits. But even though it does live 2 hits because he switched it in, I will be able to outspeed him and knock him out with my second Moonblast. As he tries to go for a double protect, even if he had got the double protect, it really wouldn't have mattered too much in the long run of the battle. As in comes the Landorus. This is my best chance to just go ahead and sack off my Tornadus Therian, because what this now allows me to do is get a free switch into my Medicham. honestly, whatever move he went for, I basically had a perfect play to counter whatever came in. If he went for U-turn, I guess the only real scary thing would have been that if this was sub-calm mind Latios, he could have potentially set up on my Tornadus. But besides that scenario, I really did not I apologize that I keep saying I don't lose much in a certain play, but it's true. Like, I'm still in a really good spot in this battle, even though he knocked down my Tornadus, because now I bring in my Medicham. I have Ice Punch. I am going to claim my kill. I eat a Stone Edge, obviously. Latios, unless it's super bulky or has Yachi Berry, is going to get absolutely blown back by the Ice Punch. And then after Rocks, even with Intimidate, there's no way Mega Manectric is going to eat an Ice Punch. So I'm going to go straight for the Ice Punch as he decides to just sack off his Latios. But it turns out that he's very bulky. Not only is he very bulky, he has the Rocky Helmet. So he puts my Mega Medicham at 37% without him even doing any bit of damage to me. So in comes the Landorus here, as it's brought down to 27%. After checking the calcs, I don't think that a Bullet Punch actually would have put this... Actually, no, did it? Yeah, I think a Bullet Punch actually would have put this Landorus right in range of where he wouldn't have been able to live another Stealth Rock switch-ins, which you may think is not a bad play, but the issue is that because I don't have Intimidate on my Crocodile, that means I have nothing that is going to be able to live in Earthquake from this Landorus. So now I have to pick something else to sack, and because my Raikou realistically is not going to be able to set up on anything, I'm going to go ahead and just sack that off to this Landorus, because what this allows me to do is get a free switch right back into my Mega Medicham, and I can once again just go for the fake out and either knock out this Landorus or get off a huge chunk of damage on the Mega Manectric here. As he does decide to bring in Mega Manectric, he is going to live, but it doesn't really matter too much, as I will be able to sack off Crocodile and then be able to bring in my Scarf Gardevoir, outspeed this Mega Manectric, and either knock it out or knock out the Landorus. Now, this is where it dawned on me that my Gardevoir actually does not outspeed this Mega Manectric. I did not double check my math, and I am actually slower than this Mega Manectric if he is running Timid max speed. So if he really wants to risk it, and if he is Timid max speed, he can actually stay in here, outspeed me, and knock me out. But realistically, there's no reason for him to have run Timid max speed Mega Manectric in this matchup, because that would have just been wasted EVs on Mega Manectric. And luckily, as you're about to see, it turns out that he is not Timid max speed. I knock him out, and now in comes the Landorus. Even though he is faster than my Gardevoir, I still have fake out on my Medicham, which is going to be strong enough to finish off this Landorus, and that is going to be the very narrow 1-0 victory in my favor, and we are able to win week 3 4-3 and head into week number 4 2-1. So I want to touch on the turn 1 crit real quickly here. So if the match had played out how it did, then the game would have come down to the first damage roll of the fake out against this Landorus and this very last damage roll from the fake out against Landorus. Because if I didn't get like 2 absolute min rolls, I think 2 fake outs still would have been strong enough to finish off Landorus. But if I did get those min rolls, he would have been able to barely live, and then I think I might have been KO'd by Toxic, depending on how much I was at. Because sometimes Showdown is weird, so this could actually be like 12% instead of 13%, so because regular poison does 12%, he might have been able to knock me out with that extra turn. So I don't necessarily know how much that would have affected. Plus, I mean, he did paralyze my Tornadus, so I can easily argue that I could have played differently if my Tornadus wasn't paralyzed. But it is what it is. Hacks is part of the game, and regardless, we are able to win this week, heading into week number 4. So if you guys did enjoy this, hit that thumbs up button down below. Let me know, again, what you guys think about the Draft Premier League. Do you think it's a good idea, bad idea? Are you enjoying it? Are you not? I don't know. Let me know, and I will see you all tomorrow. Later, everybody.